911, one of the main numbers used by the orchestrators, which is why the Twin Towers were hit on September 11th. The first plane to hit one of the towers was Flight 11. The towers themselves had 110 stories. The apparent terrorist attack happened in New York City, the 11th state. New York City has 11 letters. On this exact same day, a plane attack also occurred in Shanksville, where Flight 77 crashed into the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian west, 77 minutes after taking off. Construction on the Pentagon began in 1941 on 9/11. Now 77 is the 7th twin number, 11 obviously being the first. Revelation 9:11 speaks of the angel of the bottomless pit, in Hebrew known as Abaddon, in Greek known as Apollo or Apollyon, the sun god. The sun god Apollo is a twin to the moon goddess Artemis. This relates to how the first crew to land on the moon was Apollo 11. But let's stick to 9/11. So Revelation 9:11 says Apollo the sun god is the king of the bottomless pit. For the memorial of the Twin Towers, 2 pits were dug in the ground. When has holes in the ground ever been a memorial for anyone? After the towers came down, 7.5 tons of its steel was used to create the USS New York, a battleship made in honor of the original USS New York BB-34, whose construction began on 9/11/1911. Later it was destroyed by naval aircrafts and ships who were testing bombs on it, which eventually sunk the ship. It was also awarded on May 1st, 1911. If you know, you know. Now we get into the crazy parts. Twinism is a big part of Freemasonry. These are the twin pillars, and of course it's associated with duality, represented in their checkerboard patterns. The police, of course, are associated heavily with duality. This is why police in Freemasonic numerology equals 76395, which is 33. 33 represents the Freemasonic degree of enlightenment. So now you should understand why the police phone number is 911. The construction of the Twin Towers began in 1968, the same year that 911 became the emergency dialing number. The lead hijacker was born in 1968. His crew of 19 passed through border security 68 times. George Bush's graduating class of 1968 was made up of 911 people. Now I'm going to show you how connected he is to all of this. When the towers were attacked, George Bush was in a classroom.
What word? Hit. Yes, hit. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready.
Steal.
What word?
Steal.
Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready.
Playing.
Yes, playing. Get ready.
Must.
Yes, must.
Isn't that strange? The words they were told to say.
Card comes up to behind me and says, "Second plane has hit the second tower. America's under attack."
How do you even process that information?
So this is the moment he got told about the second tower, while he was in the classroom.
I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, "Well, there's one terrible pilot." And I said it must have been a horrible accident.
Described seeing the first plane crash on television that day. But that's impossible. No one saw the first plane crash on TV on September the 11th because the videotape of it didn't surface until the next day.
But there was nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
I don't think anybody could have predicted that these people would take an airplane and slam it into the World Trade Center, take another one and slam it into the Pentagon.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, conducted exercises with fighter jets, simulating hijacked planes flown into the World Trade Center in the 2 years before the attack.
The conventional wisdom, there were people in the United States who actually were preparing to defend against the kind of attacks which occurred here on 9/11. Before the attacks on September the 11th, NORAD conducted exercises using hijacked airliners as weapons, and one target was the World Trade Center.
To look at which companies actually gained from September 11th.
turned up this company, Carlyle Group. Both George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush worked for the Carlyle Group. Carlyle Group was holding its annual investor conference on the morning of September 11th in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Washington, D.C. At that meeting were all of the Carlyle regulars. James Baker, likely John Major, definitely George H.W. Bush, though he left the morning of September 11th.
Just 6 weeks after 9/11, Carlyle filed to take United Defense public, and in December made a one-day profit of $237 million.
Bin Laden family was invested in one of their defense funds, which ironically meant that as the United States started increasing its defense spending, the Bin Laden family stood to gain from those investments through the Carlyle Group.